Used car prices traditionally depreciate. Last year, as we all know, they appreciated considerably, and now we are bucking the trend. We're going back down in price, Dad. We have the latest data from our friends over at Black Book.
It's like riding a bucking bronco, ladies and gentlemen.
I mean, look at this chart.
Oh, my God.
It goes up.
Yeah.
It goes down.
I better have my seatbelt on.
It goes up. It goes down. Last week, wholesale used car prices dropped nearly 1%. That means week over week, the value of all the vehicles that went through the auction dropped 1%.
Yes.
This week, it was less of a decline, but still a significant one, nearly 2/3 of a point, 0.64%.
Yes.
What did you see when we looked through the data here? What's going through your mind about used car prices?
Well, I personally thought that the drop would be a little higher than what we've seen so far. And the reason I thought the drop would be higher is I thought it would be more reflective of high gas prices. But apparently those prices haven't either scared dealership personnel or scared consumers enough at this point. I do believe moving forward that as gas continues to go up in price, that we will see an even greater decline in some of these wholesale values, especially on the gas guzzler side of vehicles.
Now, it is important to recognize, and Black Book makes a call out of this time of year is typically when you see, I don't want to call it appreciation in used vehicle prices, but
you see a bump.
You see a bump because it's the spring selling season is upon us.
Absolutely.
Now, this year, that's not happening. We're seeing really substantial. So for perspective here, between 2017 and 2019, this same week saw a 0.25% decline week over week in wholesale used car and truck prices. Again, this year, right now, 0.64%, and last week was 0.89%.
Almost three times.
Yeah, so we're seeing significant declines. Now, it's not evenly distributed across all different types of vehicles. So like when we look at the car segment, for example, sports cars.
Yes.
This is a time of year when sports cars should actually be appreciating a bit.
Typically, spring selling season is when sports cars go up in value again. People are in the market. They want to get a sporty car to drive around in the spring and the summer when the weather's nice.
Wholesale prices went down 1.33%, the largest decline across all segments of vehicles, cars, or trucks. Can't be too surprised by that. Economically, what's going on feels a little... If you have disposable income to like toss at a sports car, I don't know, maybe you're just thinking I'm going to hold on to that money just for a little bit and see what happens. And secondarily, gas prices. It's not like you're getting good fuel efficiency in your sports car.
Typically not.
So not too surprised to see that. What is a little bit surprising, well, I won't say it's too surprising, but the declines across subcompact and compact cars, they're less than the average, but I was actually a little bit surprised that they were even declines because I would have started to assume that, okay, the vehicles that are cheapest to purchase and get decent fuel economy would actually stabilize
or go up in value.
Especially because when we look at the truck segment, full-size SUVs and crossovers, they appreciated $5 week over week. They stayed stable. And that would have been a segment where we would have expected them to actually depreciate pretty significantly, kind of like sports cars do.
I think maybe next week we'll start to see a little more of the gas price scare reflected in wholesale values that dealers are paying.
I think you're probably right just as well. Full-size cars were down.
Of course, I'll be able to say that every week.
Full-size cars were down over a point.
Yes.
Yeah, and we also had, it's worth calling out here, full-size vans, which are not particularly fuel efficient, but for the 59th week in a row, they appreciated as well. Okay, so we have appreciation across the board for vans.
Exactly. The Bitcoin of automobiles. Get 20% off at joinyaa.com through March 24th. Just type in luck.
Now, talk a little bit, Dad, about your expectations amidst all that's going on internationally with supply chains. And I'll preface that with, by the time you're watching this, in China, there have been shutdowns related to the COVID pandemic that are causing massive supply chain headaches and issues, similarly to what we experienced last year. There's, of course, also the war in Ukraine, which is causing considerable supply chain disruptions and challenges in Europe as well. So that's on the new car production side. What we're seeing here on the wholesale side, wholesale used car prices, and what we're seeing on the new car production side, what does that make you think is going to happen in the near future?
Well, I think we're going to see a tightening of new car inventory. Now, having said that, I think there'll be certain segments of new car inventory that even with the tightening will suddenly have almost a glut of certain types of vehicles. And those certain types of vehicles, in my mind, will be the gas guzzlers or the not as fuel efficient larger SUVs and pickup trucks.
Sure.
So I think as gas prices continue to escalate, and even though there could be further disruption in production of new vehicles, the production of those large SUVs and pickup trucks, even at a reduced rate, probably won't sell as quickly as they had been in the past. And I wouldn't be a bit surprised if by early summer we start to see an increase in inventory levels on dealer lots, and we start to see either incentives from the manufacturers to help the dealers move those vehicles, or the dealers just discounting those vehicles to get them off the lot.
And again, be clear, that's not today, that's not tomorrow, that's 3 months from now.
Okay, yeah, we just hit spring. So yeah, it would be 3 months from now.
And so if you're thinking of selling your vehicle, the consideration would be if it's a gas guzzler, okay, sell it now. It's probably not going to appreciate as much as it could or should, prior to the gas shortage. Nah, it's not shortage, but the fuel price increases. And if you're going to sell a hybrid, if you've got one, you're thinking about selling it, or a more fuel efficient compact,
on to that.
And you would wait till what you just described. Like, heck, it could be 2 months from now, but hold on to it.
Yes, because I think those will go up in value.
Now, let me tell you, this is from Black Book, and this is from the wholesale section of their report. They say, quote, "The lanes are heating up as dealers plan for the spring/tax season market. Franchise dealers have been somewhat absent as they continue to purchase upstream at grounding when consumers bring the vehicle to them for either a lease return or a trade-in, something like that. But large independent dealers and rental companies have been, quote, hot and heavy in the lane. With several manufacturers freezing fleet sales, rental companies have struggled to meet demand and have been actively purchasing vehicles both in lane and at dealerships. It seems like rental companies have started being more active in lanes as COVID restrictions are rolled back and Americans prepare to travel." That's another interesting dynamic that we have to consider is it might not just be consumer demand that props up used car values. The rental car companies are seeing more people travel and they need more inventory.
According to my friend Chip, it's his biggest competitor every time he's trying to bid on the relatively newer, lower mileage used cars, is he's trying to compete against Hertz and Enterprise and Budget and Avis and all the rental car companies. Now, to make matters worse, Hyundai, which is a big player in the fleet market for rental car companies, has announced that for the next 3 months, they are suspending fleet sales so that production can go directly to their dealer body and not to the rental car companies. So it's going to continue to be a headache for dealers trying to buy those 1 to 2 to 3 year old low mileage used cars. They're going to get bid up higher than they should be because of the rental car companies.
Yeah, I completely agree. Completely agree. All right, well, we'll keep you posted. Join us again next week as we have another market update. Thank you to the Black Book team for supplying us with this great data. And hopefully we see good news, but everything that we're reading, again, on the new car production side and then the expectations for what it's going to cost as a consumer on the used car side, it's not a pretty picture. We had kind of like we discussed a couple of weeks ago, like a month ago now, there was like a 2-week window. If you had to buy a used car, that was the time to do it. You can negotiate, and you still can right now, but it's not looking so
days
pretty.
are dwindling.
It kind of feels that way.
Yes.
All right, Pops. Thank you as always.
Thank you. Thanks for going over the numbers with me.